When Lorenzo Marchetti laid 4 black cards on the breakfast table, Hannah Flores assumed the 4th one was a mistake. The other 3 women had been invited to the penthouse for reasons everyone in New York society could understand. Vivian Cross was beautiful, connected, and openly favored by Lorenzo's aunt. Celeste Avery advised collectors whose names appeared on museum walls. Dr. Simone Park ran children's programs for the Marchetti Foundation and knew how to speak to a boardroom without sounding as if she wanted anything from it. Hannah was the nanny. She stood at the edge of the long dining room in a navy dress she had bought 5 years earlier for a cousin's wedding. Her dark curls pinned back because 8-year-old Olivia had braided one side badly and begged her not to undo it. Hannah's body was soft and full, her hips too generous for the severe chairs Vivian occupied, as if they had been designed around her. Hannah had spent most of her adult life learning that rooms judged a curvy woman before she opened her mouth. She had also learned that children rarely did. Olivia sat beside her uncle, turning a silver spoon between her fingers. Lorenzo Marchetti was 50, broad-shouldered, controlled, and dressed in charcoal gray. He did not raise his voice. Men lowered theirs when he entered. His legitimate companies filled 3 floors of a midtown tower. The rest of his authority lived in conversations no one recorded. He pushed 1 card toward each woman. "By 6 o'clock, he said. Buy one thing you believe belongs in my family. There is no preset limit. Do not ask me what I want. Bring me the receipt and tell me why you chose it." Celeste smiled first. "An acquisition test." "A judgment test," Vivian corrected, watching Lorenzo. Simone touched the card but did not lift it. "And if we choose not to spend your money?" "That is also a choice." Hannah looked at the card in front of her. Her name had been embossed beneath the Marchetti crest. "It isn't a mistake," Lorenzo said. "I didn't say it was." "You were about to." Hannah met his eyes. "My employment review is next week. I assumed this was a dramatic way to tell me I'm still on probation." Olivia gave a small, startled laugh. Lorenzo did not, but something almost moved at the corner of his mouth. "You asked for permanent authority over Olivia's daily schedule," he said. "That is a place in this family. I asked for the right to take her to a dentist without 3 security calls and a written approval from a man who has never packed her lunch." Vivian lowered her coffee cup slowly. Lorenzo's gaze remained on Hannah. "Then show me what you value." Hannah picked up the card. She disliked tests that hid their rules. In her experience, people who said they wanted honesty often wanted obedience performed with better manners. Lorenzo had hired her 9 months earlier, 6 weeks after his younger brother Matteo and Matteo's wife died in a winter highway collision. Olivia had survived because she had been home with the flu. Since then, the child had lived in rooms full of expensive things, and adults who treated grief like a stain they could cover with fresh fabric. Hannah had not fixed Olivia. She had made breakfast. She had sat on the bathroom floor during panic attacks. She had learned which stories Olivia wanted repeated and which names she could not yet hear. That was all. Lorenzo considered it remarkable. At 10, the 4 women left the penthouse separately. Vivian departed in a town car provided by Lorenzo's office. Celeste went downtown to a private gallery preview. Simone asked to be dropped at the Foundation's clinic in Queens. Hannah took Olivia with her because Saturday was still a work day, and because Lorenzo's test had not canceled an 8-year-old's need for supervision. "Are you going to buy a horse?" Olivia asked in the elevator. "No." "A small horse?" "We live on the 53rd floor." "We could keep it at Uncle Lorenzo's country house." "Your uncle would make the horse sign a confidentiality agreement." Olivia laughed again, then covered her mouth as if laughter required permission. That was the sound Hannah wanted to protect. They started at a bookstore near Bryant Park because Olivia needed a new copy of The Secret Garden. Her old one had split at the spine from being carried between her bedroom and the small sitting room where Hannah read every night. The store had sold the last illustrated edition an hour earlier, so Hannah searched online while Olivia leaned against her arm. A sponsored listing appeared between the results. Wexler and Rowe Auctioneers. Estate Jewelry Preview. Final bidding today. The photograph showed a ring made of old gold, a deep blue sapphire, and a narrow band of black enamel shaped like two folded wings. Olivia went still. Hannah felt the change before she saw it. The child's shoulder stopped moving beneath her hand. "Go back," Olivia whispered. "To what?" "The blue ring." Hannah opened the listing. The ring was late 19th century, modified in the 1970s, with a replaced sapphire and a repaired inner band. The estimate was $40,000 to $60,000. Beneath the photographs, the condition report noted a partial Italian inscription, "Finché ricordi, sei a casa." As long as you remember, you are home. Olivia read the translation twice. Grandma Rosa said that. Hannah knew Rosa Marchetti had died long before Olivia was born. She also knew Matteo had told his daughter stories about her, usually at bedtime, and that grief had made those stories sacred. "Your father said she said it?" "He said it was inside her ring." Olivia pointed at the black enamel. "And it had bird wings because she hated cages. Daddy said she wore it when Uncle Lorenzo was scared of storms." Hannah looked again at the listing. The auction house had photographed the inscription, though one word was blurred by an old repair. The ring could have belonged to any Italian woman with a sentimental husband. Olivia could be joining a remembered phrase to an object that looked close enough. But the child was not excited. She was frightened. "Daddy said the ring got lost the night she went away," Olivia said. "He said Uncle Lorenzo never found it." Hannah's thumb hovered over the bidding button. She could call Lorenzo. His instruction had been not to ask what he wanted. Calling about a possible family relic was not the same as asking. Yet she pictured his face closing, his security team arriving, Olivia being removed from the conversation while men turned memory into evidence. The auction ended in 90 minutes. "Do you want to see it in person?" Hannah asked. Olivia nodded. Wexler and Rowe occupied 3 quiet floors on East 57th Street. The receptionist recognized the card before Hannah showed identification. Within minutes, a specialist named Nora Bell escorted them into a viewing room where the ring rested under glass. Olivia approached it slowly. The sapphire was darker than the catalog image. One corner of the black enamel wing had been chipped and repaired with a line of gold. "That's where she hit the oven," Olivia said. Nora looked up. "Excuse me?" "My grandma hit the oven when she was making bread. Daddy said she cried because she thought Grandpa would be mad, but he kissed her finger and said the ring looked braver broken." Hannah felt the skin tighten along her arms. "May I ask where this came from?" "An estate consignment," Nora said. "The late Martin Sorrell. He dealt in antique jewelry for decades. Provenance before his acquisition is limited, but there is an intake ledger." "Can we see it?" "Not before the sale. We can provide it to the buyer during the post-sale review." The bidding had already started online. Hannah registered with Lorenzo's card. The auction house called the card issuer. Someone in Lorenzo's office approved her for up to $500,000 without asking why. That unsettled her more than a refusal would have. They sat in the back row of the sale room. Olivia's feet did not touch the floor. The ring opened at $35,000. Hannah raised her paddle at $40,000. A phone bidder answered at $45,000. At $60,000, Hannah's throat went dry. At $80,000, Olivia whispered, "You can stop." Hannah looked at her. "Do you want me to?" The child swallowed. "No, but you can." That answer made the decision for her. The phone bidder went to $110,000. Hannah bid $120,000. The room had begun watching her now, not because she looked wealthy, but because she did not. Her dress pulled slightly across her waist when she leaned forward. Her sensible heels had a scuff near one toe. She held a bitter paddle in one hand and an 8-year-old's fingers in the other. At $180,000, Nora came near and murmured that the buyer's premium would add substantially to the total. "I understand." At $220,000, the phone bidder paused. Hannah thought of Lorenzo's breakfast table. "Buy one thing you believe belongs in my family." She lifted the paddle. $240,000, the auctioneer said. The phone bidder returned at $250,000. Hannah raised the paddle once more. $275,000. The phone bidder withdrew. The hammer fell. With premium, Nora told her quietly. The total is $343,750. Hannah stared at the number. For one wild second, she imagined her mother hearing that she had spent more than a house on a ring because a grieving child remembered a bedtime story. Then Olivia pressed her forehead against Hannah's shoulder. "Thank you," she whispered. Hannah signed the receipt. By 5:45, all four women were back in Lorenzo's penthouse. Celeste had purchased a small, modern painting by a Cuban-American artist, whose work had doubled in value over 3 years. She explained that a family with power should invest in artists before institutions approved them. Simone had used $60,000 to fund 1 year of transportation for children attending the foundation's Queen's Clinic. She admitted the purchase was not an object and said she would accept disqualification. Vivian had placed a deposit on a neighboring apartment. She explained that privacy was the only luxury Lorenzo's family did not own enough of, and combining the units would give Olivia a protected schoolroom and Lorenzo a second private entrance. Her answer was intelligent. It was also designed to sound maternal without requiring her to know Olivia at all. Then Lorenzo turned to Hannah. She placed the auction box on the table. "I bought something that may already belong here," she said. Olivia moved beside her. Lorenzo opened the box. His hand stopped above the ring. No one spoke. The controlled expression Hannah had seen through business calls, funeral anniversaries, security alerts, and Olivia's worst nights did not merely crack. It disappeared. Lorenzo lifted the ring with 2 fingers. He turned it toward the light, saw the repaired enamel wing, and went pale beneath his olive skin. "Where did you get this?" "Wexler and Rowe." "Who showed it to you?" "No one." Olivia saw the listing. His eyes cut to his niece. Olivia took 1 step back. Hannah moved between them without thinking. Lorenzo noticed. "How much?" he asked. $343,750, including the premium. Celeste exhaled softly. Simone looked at Olivia. Vivian's face remained composed, but the pulse at her throat beat too fast. Lorenzo turned the ring over. Inside the band, the worn inscription caught the light. His thumb covered it at once. "Everyone leave," he said. Vivian rose. "Lorenzo, if this is what I think, you do not know what it is. I know you." "No," he said. "You know what my aunt tells you." The words landed harder than a shout. Vivian's expression changed for less than a second. It was enough. Lorenzo looked toward the security chief waiting beyond the dining room. "Marco, no one leaves the building until every receipt, device, and route from today is copied." Hannah's anger arrived before fear. "You gave us cards and told us to shop. Now we're prisoners because you recognized what I bought?" "You are not a prisoner." "Then Olivia and I are leaving." "No." The single word made the room smaller. Hannah stepped closer to him. "Do not confuse your panic with authority over me." Olivia's hand found the back of Hannah's dress. Lorenzo looked down at the child's fingers, then back at Hannah. His mother's ring rested in his palm, missing for 22 years. He closed his hand around it. "Take Olivia to her room," he said. "Marco will bring you the auction documents. You will tell me every person you spoke to, every bid you placed, and why someone on the phone was willing to pay $250,000 for a ring worth $60,000. Hannah held his gaze. "And after that?" "After that," Lorenzo said, "I find out who knew my mother's ring was coming back before I did." Hannah did not take Olivia to her room. She took her to the small library beside it, where the doors had glass panels and no one could pretend a private interrogation was happening out of sight. Olivia curled into the corner of the sofa with the secret garden pressed against her chest. Hannah sat beside her while Marco DeSantis, Lorenzo's security chief, placed a tablet on the coffee table. Marco was 46, solidly built, and one of the few men in the penthouse who spoke to Hannah as if she had a job rather than a temporary presence. He had driven Matteo to school when they were boys. He had also been the first person to interview Hannah after the accident. "I need your timeline," he said. You can have it after Olivia eats. It will take 10 minutes. She has not eaten since breakfast. Marco looked at Olivia, then sent a guard for soup and bread. That small concession mattered. Hannah gave him every detail from the bookstore listing to the final bid. She handed over her phone. She named Nora Bell, described the phone bidder, and explained why she had not called Lorenzo. You thought he would stop the sale? Marco asked. I thought he would remove Olivia from the room and turn the ring into a security problem. Marco glanced toward the hallway. It is a security problem. It was her grandmother first. Olivia looked up. Marco softened his voice. How did you recognize it, Piccola? Daddy told me. About the words? And the wing? And the oven? Did anyone else ever talk to you about the ring? No. Did Miss Cross? Olivia shook her head. Did Aunt Beatrice? The child thought longer. She said Grandma Rosa had too many pretty things and made people jealous. Hannah felt Marco become still. When did she say that? He asked. At Christmas. When I asked why there weren't pictures of Grandma in the big hall. Marco entered the answer without comment. Across the penthouse, Lorenzo stood alone in his study with the ring under a magnifying lamp. He had last seen it on his mother's right hand the afternoon she died. Rosa Marchetti had not been a gentlewoman in the simple way people remembered the dead. She had been impatient with cowardice, suspicious of flattery, and capable of turning a family dinner into an audit. She had also sat on the edge of Lorenzo's bed during thunderstorms when he was 12, and told him that fear was useful only if it made him notice something. The ring had been her wedding gift from Vittorio. He had added the inscription after their first son was born. One black enamel wing had cracked against an oven door in the kitchen of their first apartment, before the money, before the guards, before every family story became a version selected for survival. 22 years ago, Rosa had left a Manhattan townhouse for a meeting in Brooklyn. Her car was forced into an intersection by a delivery truck. 2 armed men approached before the driver could reverse. Rosa died in the first exchange. The attackers vanished. The family blamed Carlo Vieri, a former partner who had been pushed out during Vittorio's illness. When Lorenzo reached the hospital, his mother's coat, watch, and handbag had been logged. The ring was gone. He had broken a man's jaw over it 3 days later. He had threatened nurses, questioned drivers, searched pawn shops, and sent photographs to dealers across 3 states. Nothing surfaced. His father finally told him the ring was only gold and stone. The dead did not return because their jewelry did. Lorenzo had repeated that lesson until it sounded like wisdom. Now the ring lay beneath his hand. Marco entered without knocking. The card authorization came through your family office at 11:23, he said. Hannah registered at Wexler at 11:16. No advance contact with the auction house. Her browser history shows the bookstore search and the sponsored listing. Phones can be cleaned. Not this fast without leaving evidence. Someone could have directed the advertisement to her. Marco's expression hardened. You asked me to investigate. Do you want the result, or do you want a suspect? Lorenzo looked back at the ring. Who was the phone bidder? Wexler will not disclose without consent or legal process. Nora Bell says the bidder registered through an intermediary. She did confirm the bidder withdrew immediately after Hannah's last offer. Get the intermediary. I'm working on it. What did the other women buy? You heard them. I want the records behind the explanations. Marco folded his arms. This test was ugly before the ring appeared. It worked. You don't know what it worked on. Lorenzo's eyes lifted. Marco did not look away. Celeste bought art because she is an art advisor. Simone funded transportation because she runs a clinic. Vivian bought access to your wall. Hannah bought a child's memory. You created 4 different traps and now you're judging them for stepping where their lives put them. I gave them freedom. You gave them money and withheld the rules. That is not freedom. It is surveillance with a receipt. Lorenzo's thumb moved across the inscription. Find the bidder, he said. Marco left. At 7, dinner was served in the library because Hannah refused to bring Olivia to the dining room. Simone asked permission to join them before she left. She sat on the carpet in her tailored suit and helped Olivia separate noodles from the vegetables she disliked. "I should have bought the bus company," Simone said. "Then I could force them to arrive on time." Olivia smiled faintly. Celeste came to the doorway next. "My car has been released. I wanted to say your choice was reckless and extraordinary." "Those usually aren't compliments when paired," Hannah said. "They are tonight." Celeste looked at Olivia. "My grandmother left me a brooch everyone else thought was hideous. I would have paid more than it was worth if it had been lost." "Would you have paid with someone else's money?" Hannah asked. Celeste considered that. "Probably not, which may be why he invited you and not someone exactly like me." "He invited me because my contract is under review." "No, he put your name on the card because he wanted to know whether care could be measured. Men like Lorenzo mistrust anything they cannot price." After she left, Simone said, "She's right about one thing. Do not let him turn your decision into proof you owe him." "I don't owe him. You live in his house, care for his niece, and rely on his signature for your job. Power can create debt even when nobody says the word." Hannah looked toward the glass doors. Lorenzo stood beyond them. He had heard. Simone rose. "Good night, Olivia." When she passed Lorenzo, she handed him the black card. "The clinic will return the money if you ask, but the children used those vans before today, and they will need them after you finish examining us." Lorenzo took the card without answering. Vivian remained in the penthouse longer than anyone else. She had spent nearly 2 hours with Marco, then accepted a drink in the West Salon, as if the delay inconvenienced her but did not frighten her. When Lorenzo entered, she was standing at the window with Manhattan spread beneath her. "You humiliated me at the table," she said. "You recovered. I always do. Why did you bid on the ring?" Vivian turned. The pause was brief, but it existed. "I didn't. The phone bidder used an account managed by Cross Meridian, her public relations firm." Vivian's face changed, then settled. "Cross Meridian places bids for clients. I do not handle every transaction." "Which client wanted my mother's ring?" "I did not know it was hers. That was not my question." Vivian walked toward him. At 41, she had built a career out of reading what powerful people feared others might see. She knew when silence looked guilty and when offense looked stronger. "My firm represents estates, collectors, and family offices. If someone placed a bid through us, I will identify them. But I will not be accused because your nanny made an impulsive purchase. She knew enough to keep bidding against your account. And apparently she knew exactly which object could open you." Vivian's voice lowered. "Ask yourself how an employee with no money and no standing found the one thing you spent 2 decades searching for on the day you handed her unlimited credit." Lorenzo said nothing. Vivian saw the doubt and pressed it. "You think sentiment makes people honest. It often makes them ambitious. She has attached herself to Olivia so completely that removing her would hurt the child. Now she has returned your mother's ring. That is not merely luck. It is leverage." Hannah did not know about the ring. Then Olivia did. Who controls what Olivia says, what she reads, where she goes, and which memories become emergencies? Lorenzo's jaw tightened. Vivian stepped close enough to touch his sleeve, but did not. "Be careful. Greed is easy to recognize when it buys diamonds. It is harder when it buys belonging." She left with her card still in her purse. Lorenzo returned to the library after Olivia had gone to bed. Hannah was waiting. She had placed her employment contract, penthouse key, and the black card on the table. "What is this?" he asked. "A reminder that I can leave." "You are not being dismissed. You detained me, searched my phone, and questioned an 8-year-old because I followed your instruction." "I did not question her." "Marco did, under your authority." "He was careful." "That does not make it harmless." Lorenzo remained standing. "You spent $343,000 without calling me. You told me not to ask what you wanted. Most people would understand that as permission to buy something reasonable. Most people at your table were trying to impress you. I was trying to answer the question. With my money. With your card. There is a difference. I never pretended it was mine. He studied her. Why did you keep bidding? Because Olivia asked me to stop only if I wanted to. She was giving me permission to disappoint her so I would not feel guilty. Children should not have to make adults comfortable around their grief. That is not an answer. It is the only answer. You expect me to believe you saw a random listing, recognized my mother's ring, and bought it by accident? I did not recognize your mother's ring. You knew the inscription. Olivia knew it. You never heard Mateo mention it? I never met Mateo. You had access to his books, his photographs, his daughter. Hannah stared at him. There it is. What? The test beneath the test. You cannot imagine someone caring for Olivia without trying to own a piece of what she belongs to. Lorenzo's voice cooled. Do not tell me what I can imagine. I don't have to. You built a whole day to demonstrate it. He moved around the table. My mother died because someone close to this family knew where she would be. Loyalty is not a word to me. No, it is a trap you make other people walk through while you stay outside it. His expression sharpened. Hannah did not retreat. You gave 4 women money so you could judge what they wanted from you. What did you risk? The question struck precisely because he had no answer. A soft sound came from the doorway. Olivia stood there in her nightgown, holding a thin red notebook. I told Hannah about the ring, she said. Hannah turned. You should be asleep. I heard Uncle Lorenzo. Olivia looked at him, not her. I showed her the words before today. Lorenzo's gaze dropped to the notebook. Olivia opened it. On one page, in a child's uneven handwriting, was a list titled, Things Daddy Said Not to Forget. Grandma Rosa hated cages. The blue ring had 2 wings. As long as you remember, you are home. The broken part made it braver. At the bottom was a date from 7 months earlier, 3 weeks before Hannah had moved into the penthouse. I wrote it when Daddy was alive, Olivia said. He made me practice spelling remember. Lorenzo took the notebook carefully. His brother's handwriting appeared beneath Olivia's in blue ink. You got it right, Bug. Nona would be proud. For the first time since the ring returned, Lorenzo had proof that did not come from a camera, a bank, or a man paid to investigate. He had proof made from a child's homework. Hannah had not planted the story. Olivia had carried it long before Hannah entered their lives. The meaning of the purchase shifted all at once. Hannah had not found the ring because she knew where Lorenzo was wounded. She had bought it because a child recognized something the adults had stopped looking for. Olivia's chin trembled. Are you mad I told her? Lorenzo knelt. It was an awkward movement for a man who rarely lowered himself in front of anyone. He held the notebook in one hand and reached for Olivia with the other, then stopped before touching her. No, he said. I am ashamed I made you think I might be. Olivia watched him. Is it really Grandma's? Yes. Then Hannah did the right thing. Lorenzo looked past her at Hannah. Yes, he said. She did. Hannah's face did not soften. Recognition was not repair. Lorenzo understood that too late, as he understood most things involving tenderness. He stood and placed the notebook back in Olivia's hands. Go with Hannah, he said. I need to make a call. To who? Olivia asked. The woman who taught your father the story. Olivia frowned. Grandma Rosa is dead. I know. Lorenzo looked at the ring on the table. I mean the woman who decided which parts of her story we were allowed to keep. Beatrice Marchetti answered on the third ring. She was 68 and lived 9 blocks away in a townhouse purchased the year after Rosa died. She had never married. In public, she was the elegant aunt who preserved family customs after tragedy. In private, she treated memory as territory. Lorenzo, she said, Vivian tells me your little experiment became unpleasant. Did she tell you Hannah bought my mother's ring? Silence lasted half a breath too long. Rosa's ring? Beatrice asked. That is impossible. It is in my hand. Then someone made a copy. The enamel broke against the oven in our first apartment. Many rings break. The inscription is inside. Many husbands use sentimental phrases. Lorenzo looked at the band. You knew the phrase before I said there was one. Beatrice did not answer. He heard the faint clink of glass on wood. Come to dinner tomorrow, she said. Bring the ring. We will examine it calmly. You tried to buy it today through Vivian's firm. That is absurd. Then you will not mind if I ask Wexler and Rowe for the bidder's registration. Beatrice's voice lost its warmth. You have always been at your worst when grief embarrasses you. Do not turn an old loss into a new accusation. You told Olivia Rosa owned too many pretty things and made people jealous. Children remember tone, not meaning. She remembers more than you expected. Beatrice exhaled. Your mother's death nearly destroyed this family. Your father survived because I helped him keep order while you chased ghosts through pawn shops. If that ring is genuine, be grateful it returned. Do not invent a conspiracy because you cannot accept chance. Chance did not register through Cross Meridian. She hung up. Lorenzo called Marco next. Put 2 people on Beatrice, he said, discreetly. You just told her we're looking. I wanted her moving. And if she moves toward Hannah or Olivia? Lorenzo's hand tightened around the phone. Double the building team. Marco was quiet. What? Lorenzo asked. You still think more control is the same as safety? Tonight it is. No. Tonight information is safety. Hannah needs to know what we're investigating. She will know what is necessary. That sentence has buried better men than us. Lorenzo ended the call. The next morning, Wexler and Rowe opened its provenance file to the buyer. Nora Bell arrived at the penthouse with a digital copy and the original intake page sealed in a clear sleeve. Martin Sorrell had acquired the ring 22 years earlier, 6 days after Rose's death. His ledger described the black enamel wings, the replaced sapphire, the repaired band, and the Italian inscription. He had paid $86,000 to Belmere Consulting through a cashier's check. The seller's representative was listed as Adrian Mercer. Lorenzo knew the name. Mercer had been Beatrice's attorney for 31 years. Nora slid a second page across the table. Mr. Sorrell's files also contain correspondence from 2009. Someone offered to repurchase the ring privately. The letterhead belonged to Belmere Consulting. The signature was Beatrice's. Hannah stood near the window with Olivia at school under Marco's direct escort. She watched Lorenzo read the letter twice. Why didn't Sorrell sell it back? She asked. Nobody tells a collector an object matters, Nora said. It increases the price and the pleasure of refusing. Could these records be false? Lorenzo asked. The paper and ink are consistent with their dates. The ledger was used for hundreds of unrelated transactions. The cashier's check cleared through a bank that later merged with Atlantic Federal. We have requested archived verification. Nothing here proves who originally removed the ring, but it establishes Belmere's possession days after Mrs. Marchetti died. Who consigned it now? Sorrell's estate. His daughter is settling the collection. So Beatrice did not control the sale. Hannah looked at Lorenzo. That explains why she needed Vivian to bid. It suggests it, he said. Nora nodded approvingly. That distinction matters. After she left, Hannah read the 2009 letter. Beatrice had described the ring as a family item transferred during a period of confusion. She had offered 3 times its market value and demanded confidentiality. Why not tell you? Hannah asked. She could not explain how she knew Sorrell had it. You searched for years. She knew where it was for at least 13. Lorenzo said nothing. Hannah set down the page. What happened before your mother died? That is not your concern. Then stop asking me to stand in rooms where people may target Olivia because of it. I did not ask you to investigate. You asked me to care for a child inside the consequences. The answer irritated him because it was exact. He walked to the cabinet and poured coffee he did not drink. My father was recovering from a stroke. The family businesses were divided. My mother believed several partnerships had become too violent and too expensive. She intended to remove Beatrice from the family accounts and sell our interests in 3 companies. Did Beatrice know? Everyone knew Rosa wanted change. No one knew how far she had gone. Who benefited when she died? My father remained nominally in control. Beatrice managed the accounts. I took over operations within a year. And the companies your mother wanted to sell? We kept them. Hannah waited. Lorenzo understood the question beneath her silence. You think I benefited? I think grief can make people accept an explanation that preserves what they inherited. His eyes hardened. Be careful. No, you be careful. Your mother may have died trying to stop the exact system that made you powerful. If that is true, finding who betrayed her will not be enough. You will have to decide what you are willing to know about yourself. He turned away from her. That afternoon, Marco found the first independent link beyond the ring. Belmere Consulting had been dissolved years earlier, but a state tax dispute preserved several financial exhibits in a public court archive. 10 days before Rosa's death, Belmere received $2,400,000 from Vieri Export Holdings, a company controlled by Carlo Vieri. 8 days after the death, Belmere paid the down payment on Beatrice's townhouse and cleared 2 private debts. The timing was damning. It was not complete. Consulting payment, Lorenzo said as Marco displayed the records in the study. That will be her explanation. It was her explanation in the tax case, Marco replied. No contract was produced, still not proof she gave Vieri my mother's route. There may be a route record. Marco had located an insurance deposition taken after Rosa's death. The family driver, Emilio Bassi, testified that the destination changed that afternoon. Rosa had planned to meet an attorney in Manhattan. A message from Beatrice redirected the car to a Brooklyn warehouse owned by a Vieri affiliate. The deposition transcript was incomplete in the public file because Vittorio's lawyers settled the claim and sealed supporting exhibits. Why did my father bury this? Lorenzo asked. To avoid a public dispute while he was ill, or to protect Beatrice, or to protect you from a war he thought you would start. Lorenzo stared at the partial transcript. Emilio is alive, Marco said. He lives in Yonkers with his daughter. Bring him. No. Lorenzo looked up. I will ask whether he is willing to speak, Marco said. He is 74, walks with a cane, and spent 20 years believing this family wanted his silence. We do not drag him anywhere. Fine. Marco did not move. What now? You owe Hannah an apology. I acknowledged she was right. That is not an apology. Lorenzo's face closed. Find Emilio. While Lorenzo pursued old records, Vivian built a new story. By Monday morning, photographs of Hannah leaving Wexler and Rowe appeared on a celebrity finance site. The headline described her as a live-in nanny who had used a billionaire employer's unrestricted card to purchase a $300,000 ring. The article quoted an unnamed household source who claimed Hannah had encouraged a grieving child to identify the object as a family heirloom. By noon, the story had spread to local television. The language was careful. It did not call Hannah a thief. It asked whether access to wealthy children had become a path to influence. Her photograph had been taken from the foundation website after a holiday event. In it, she was laughing beside Olivia with a plate in her hand. Online comments discussed her body, her dress, her income, and the obvious ambition strangers believed they could see in a curvy woman standing near money. Hannah read 3 comments before shutting off her phone. Lorenzo's lawyers offered an immediate statement saying the purchase had been authorized. His public relations team wanted to describe the ring as a personal gift from him to Hannah, which would end questions about misuse. It would also make the lie permanent, Hannah said. They stood in the study with 2 attorneys, Marco, and a communications director. It is the cleanest explanation, the director said. Mr. Marchetti gave 4 women cards. You purchased jewelry. He allowed you to keep it. I did not buy it for myself. The public does not need the family history. The public is being told I used a child. Lorenzo said, we will deny that. With what? A sentence from your office? Hannah asked. You created the situation. You can explain it. His attorney intervened. Explaining the test would create separate reputational issues. It should, Hannah said. Lorenzo's gaze moved to her. You want me to announce that 4 private individuals were given no-limit cards as a character assessment? I want you to tell the truth you are asking me to absorb for you. The truth will expose Olivia's connection to the ring. Then protect that part. Say the purchase returned family property. Say I acted within your instruction. Say the allegations are false. That invites questions about how the ring was lost. Yes. The attorneys went silent. Lorenzo understood. She was not merely asking him to clear her. She was asking him to open the door he had kept shut for 22 years. We do not have complete evidence, he said. You have complete evidence that I did not steal from you. I will issue a statement. Under your name? Through the family office. Under your name, Lorenzo. He hesitated. Hannah nodded once, as if he had answered. She left the study. An hour later, Lorenzo issued a statement through his office. It confirmed that Hannah had acted with authorization and that the ring was a Marchetti family object. It did not describe the test. It did not name Vivian or Beatrice. It did not say Hannah had protected Olivia's memory. The article updated with one sentence and kept its headline. That evening, Lorenzo made his second mistake. Marco had identified 3 people who might be leaking information. Vivian, a junior household administrator, and an auction consultant connected to Celeste. Lorenzo decided to give each a different piece of false information about where the ring would be authenticated. The leak would reveal the source. He told Vivian the ring was going to a private jeweler on Madison Avenue. He told the administrator it would remain in the penthouse safe. Through Celeste's consultant, he allowed word that it would be transported to the family archive in Westchester. Then he told Hannah nothing. He ordered Marco to place the actual ring in a secure case at the Marchetti Foundation office, where Hannah was scheduled to take Olivia for an art program the next afternoon. He believed no one outside his inner team knew the ring would be there. He believed the false trails would draw attention away from it. Marco objected. Use another location, he said. Do not put the object in the same building as the child. The ring will be in a restricted vault. Then why move it at all? Because Beatrice may have access to the penthouse systems through people we have not identified. Tell Hannah. She is angry. Anger makes behavior unpredictable. Marco stared at him. That is not security analysis. That is punishment. Lorenzo's voice went flat. Carry out the transfer. Marco did, and hated himself for it. The next day, Hannah arrived at the foundation with Olivia at 3:15. At 3:22, a fire alarm sounded on the 4th floor. The alarm was false, triggered manually in a service corridor. Staff began evacuating children through the east stairwell. 2 men wearing building maintenance badges entered the restricted records area during the confusion. They never reached the vault. Marco had placed 2 guards inside after overriding Lorenzo's instructions. One intruder fled. The other was detained without a shot fired. No child saw the confrontation, but Hannah saw Marco carrying the ring case out of the records area. She looked from the case to Olivia, then to the guards. You brought it here, she said. Marco's silence told her who had ordered it. Hannah's face changed. Not fear, not surprise. Decision. She took Olivia's hand and walked out of the building. Lorenzo reached Hannah's apartment in Astoria 40 minutes later. It was the first time he had been there. The building was clean, narrow, and old enough that the radiator pipes clicked behind the walls. Hannah had kept the apartment after moving into the penthouse because she refused to surrender the only home that belonged entirely to her. Lorenzo had once considered the decision inefficient. Standing outside her locked door, he understood it as foresight. Marco waited beside him. She will not open for me either, he said. Olivia is inside? Yes. Hannah notified the school counselor, changed the authorized pickup list, and called Simone to sit with them. She cannot change Olivia's security arrangements without approval. Marco turned his head slowly. Do not say that when the door opens. Lorenzo knocked again. Hannah answered at last, but she left the chain engaged. Simone stood behind her. Olivia was not visible. "I came for my niece," Lorenzo said. "She is safe. She belongs in her home. She belongs where adults do not use her schedule to move evidence. I did not use her. You placed the ring in a building because you knew our presence there would look ordinary. The location was secure. 2 men walked in wearing maintenance badges. They were stopped. Because Marco disobeyed you." Lorenzo looked at him. Marco did not deny it. Hannah continued. "You turned Olivia and me into camouflage without telling us. That is using us. I was trying to identify the leak, and you found one. In yourself." The words landed cleanly. Lorenzo lowered his voice. "Let me speak to Olivia." Hannah looked behind her. A moment later, the child appeared in the hallway wearing sweatpants and one of Hannah's oversized shirts. "Uncle Lorenzo?" He moved closer to the gap in the door. "Are you all right?" "Yes." "Come home with me." Olivia looked at Hannah, then back at him. "Did you put Grandma's ring at the foundation?" "Yes." "Did Hannah know?" "No." "Why?" He could have said security. He could have said necessity. He could have said adults were handling a dangerous situation. Instead, he saw the red notebook in her hands. "Because I thought knowing less would make her easier to protect," he said. "Did it?" "No." Olivia pressed her lips together. "I want to stay here tonight." Every old instinct in Lorenzo resisted. He controlled Olivia's residence, her guards, her transportation, and the legal trust created after Matteo's death. Allowing her to remain outside his system felt like surrendering the only duty he had not failed. Then Hannah said, "You can put a guard downstairs, one I approve. You can call at 8. She goes to school from here tomorrow. Those are my conditions." "My permission is not required for you to stay in your own apartment," he said. "No, but your respect is required if you expect me to work for you again." He looked at Olivia. 8 o'clock, he said. "Marco chooses the guard with Hannah. You call me if anything changes." Olivia nodded. The door closed. In the hallway, Lorenzo stood without moving. Marco said, "That was the first useful thing you have done in 2 days." Lorenzo struck the wall with the heel of his hand. Not hard enough to damage it, hard enough to expose the impulse. "I almost put her in danger." "Yes, I moved the ring away from a compromised house." "You moved it without telling the people whose routine made the transfer convenient." "I thought I had accounted for every route." "You accounted for routes, not consent." Lorenzo looked at the closed door. Who were the men? One carried a phone with messages from a disposable number. The maintenance badges were issued by a contractor cross-Meridian hired for foundation events last year. Vivian. Likely, not proved. Find her. She has gone to Beatrice's townhouse. Lorenzo turned toward the stairs. Marco blocked him. "What are you doing?" Lorenzo asked. "Preventing the next mistake." "Move." "If you go there angry, Beatrice will deny everything. Vivian will destroy what she can, and one of them may decide fear is safer than negotiation. We have the detained man. We have the contractor link. We have the financial trail. We need the insurance file and Emilio's testimony." Lorenzo's hands curled at his sides. Marco lowered his voice. "Your mother spent her last months trying to reduce the power of men who believed force solved uncertainty. Do not honor her by repeating them." They left without going to Beatrice's house. Hannah did not return to the penthouse the next morning. She sent a formal notice suspending her employment until Lorenzo agreed to written authority over Olivia's daily care, independent access to child counseling, and a security protocol requiring her informed consent before Olivia's routine was used in any operation. She also returned the black card. Lorenzo signed the temporary terms before noon. It did not bring her back. While Marco and the attorneys pursued the sealed insurance exhibits, Hannah followed a simpler question. Why had Vivian known the ring would be at auction before anyone else? Nora Bell could not disclose bidder records to Hannah, but she could discuss the public marketing campaign. Wexler and Rowe had sent advance notices to clients who previously expressed interest in black enamel mourning jewelry. Cross Meridian was not on that list. The auction catalog, however, had been printed by a luxury communications company Vivian's firm used. 6 weeks before the sale, a production assistant downloaded the ring page outside normal hours. The assistant told Hannah she had done it at Vivian's direct request. That still did not prove Beatrice's role. Hannah called Celeste, who understood how private collectors hid purchases. Celeste examined the 2009 repurchase letter and noticed that Beatrice had referenced a private appraisal number not included in Sorrell's records. Appraisal numbers came from insurers. If Beatrice knew the number, Celeste said, she either had the original policy or access to the claim after Rosa died. The Marchetti family office claimed the old policy had been destroyed under a document retention schedule. Hannah did not accept that answer. Rosa had been a policyholder, and the insurer had merged twice. Simone connected Hannah with a former compliance officer who explained that settled claims involving fatalities were often preserved on microfilm long after normal files were destroyed. By Thursday, Lorenzo's lawyers obtained a court order allowing limited access to the sealed exhibits because the records were relevant to an active attempted theft and possible fraud. The insurer produced a scanned claim file. Inside was the complete deposition of Emilio Bassi. He had testified that Beatrice personally called the car phone at 4:12 on the afternoon Rosa died. She said Rosa's attorney had moved the meeting to a warehouse office in Brooklyn. Rosa objected, then agreed because Beatrice knew the private name of the attorney's file and described a document only family members had seen. The attorney later swore he had never changed the meeting. More damaging was an inventory form from the hospital. Beatrice had identified Rosa's body before Lorenzo arrived. She signed for the coat, watch, handbag, and one gold ring with a blue stone. The ring was never entered into the family estate. Lorenzo read that line alone in his study. His father had possessed the same file. Vittorio had not merely suspected Beatrice. He had known enough to settle the claim, bury the deposition, and preserve the family's public unity. Then he had handed Lorenzo the organization built on that silence. Hannah had been right. Beatrice's betrayal was not the only inheritance. At 6 that evening, Emilio agreed to speak by video from his daughter's home. His voice shook, but his memory did not. "Your mother knew something was wrong when we turned onto the bridge," he told Lorenzo. "She said Beatrice had used a phrase from a private letter. She believed her because nobody else knew it. Why did you stay silent after the deposition? Your father came to my hospital room. He said if I repeated the story, Carlo Vieri would kill my children. Maybe that was true. Maybe he wanted to save Beatrice. I was afraid. Did you see Beatrice take the ring? No. I saw it on your mother's hand before we left. That is all I can swear." It was enough because the ring's own chain of custody filled the remaining gap. Vivian called Lorenzo that night. Her voice was controlled, but not calm. "Beatrice wants a family meeting tomorrow. No attorneys, no police. She will explain the payment and the ring." "Why should I grant her privacy?" "Because the records touch your father, your companies, and men who are still alive. If you expose everything, you will not only destroy her." "What did she promise you?" "A future," Vivian said after a pause. "She said you would never choose a woman you could not test, so the only way into your life was to become useful before you became suspicious. You arranged the leak about Hannah. I contained a threat. You sent men into a building with children. I hired them to recover property, not harm anyone. You do not get to define danger after creating it." Vivian's breath caught. "Beatrice has copies of transactions that could fracture your organization. She will trade them for the ring and your silence. Tell her the meeting is at the Marchetti Foundation tomorrow at noon." She asked for private. She had 22 years of private. Lorenzo ended the call. The foundation board gathered at noon in a room overlooking the East River. Beatrice arrived with Vivian and 2 attorneys. Lorenzo sat at the head of the table with Marco, Celeste, Simone, and 3 independent board members. Hannah entered last. She wore the same navy dress from the breakfast test, but the braid Olivia had made was gone. Her hair fell over her shoulders. She carried no purse, no card, and no visible fear. Beatrice looked at her with open contempt. "This is a family matter." Hannah took a seat beside Simone. "You made me part of it when you used my photograph to protect yourself." Lorenzo placed the ring in the center of the table. For 1 second, Beatrice's composure failed. Her eyes fixed on the chipped enamel wing. Then she sat. "You wanted an explanation," she said. "Your mother gave me the ring before her meeting. She feared it would be recognized. After her death, I sold it to fund protective measures for the family. The Vieri payment was a settlement related to separate business interests." Lorenzo slid the hospital inventory across the table. "You signed for the ring after she died." Beatrice did not touch the page. The nurse was mistaken. The intake ledger records Belmere selling it 6 days later. Mercer handled many objects. The cashier's check went to your company. I told you, family security. The money paid for your townhouse. Her voice sharpened. A residence used for meetings that kept this family intact while your father could barely speak, and you were breaking men's teeth in pawn shops. Lorenzo placed the full deposition beside the inventory. You redirected Rosa's car. Beatrice's eyes moved to Vivian. Vivian looked down. You do not understand the crisis we faced, Beatrice said. Rosa intended to dismantle everything your grandfather built. Vieri wanted leverage, not blood. He promised the meeting would frighten her into withdrawing the sale. The gunmen were not supposed to fire. The room remained quiet. It was not a confession pulled from nothing. It was an admission forced into the space left by records, money, signatures, and a recovered ring. You sold her root, Lorenzo said. I preserved the family. You profited. I survived. There is a difference. Hannah spoke. Not to the person who died. Beatrice turned on her. You have spent less than a year in this house. Do not lecture me about the cost of keeping it standing. I know exactly what it costs, Hannah said. It costs children who learn adults call secrecy protection. It costs employees who are used as bait. It costs a man who can identify betrayal in everyone except the people who taught it to him. Lorenzo looked at her. She did not rescue him from the truth. She included him in it. Beatrice leaned back. And what will you do, Lorenzo? Hand these records to authorities and invite them through every company account your father touched? Destroy your brother's trust? Put Olivia's name in a public scandal? You can punish me privately. Take the townhouse, take my shares, exile me. But if you make this public, you cut your own throat to prove I held the knife. That was the choice she had counted on. The old Lorenzo would have taken her offer. He would have removed her quietly, seized her assets, and called secrecy discipline. He would have protected the family name and preserved the machinery that made betrayal profitable. He looked at the ring. Then he looked at Hannah, whose job he had endangered, and at Marco, who had disobeyed him to protect children. Simone had risked foundation funding by appearing. Celeste had opened her professional network. Olivia, waiting with a counselor 2 floors below, had done the simplest and bravest thing of all. She had remembered accurately. Lorenzo opened a folder. I have already authorized the release of the insurance file, Belmere records, auction provenance, and contractor evidence to the district attorney through outside counsel, he said. Beatrice's face emptied. You fool. I also placed the foundation under temporary independent administration and suspended every family-controlled contract pending review. You will lose the board. I resigned as chairman this morning. Vivian stared at him. Beatrice rose. Your father built your authority. My mother died trying to limit it. She would have left you weak. No, Lorenzo said. She would have left me accountable. Beatrice's attorneys whispered urgently. She ignored them. You think this nanny has made you moral? Lorenzo did not look at Hannah. No, She made it impossible for me to pretend morality was something I could test in other people without risking it myself. Beatrice reached for the ring. Hannah's hand moved first, closing the box before Beatrice could touch it. "That does not belong to you," Hannah said. Beatrice's eyes burned. "It belongs to this family." "Then the family gets to decide what it means now." The doors opened. 2 investigators entered with Lorenzo's outside attorney. There were no weapons drawn, no men shouting, no private execution dressed as justice. Beatrice looked at Lorenzo one last time. "You will regret choosing strangers over blood." He answered, "Blood was never the part you respected." She was escorted out for questioning. Vivian remained seated until one investigator asked her to stand. Before leaving, she looked at Hannah. "You won because you did not know there was a game." Hannah shook her head. "No, I knew there was a game. I just refused to make Lorenzo the prize." Vivian had no answer. The consequences did not end that afternoon. Beatrice was charged months later with conspiracy, financial fraud, and offenses connected to the attempted theft. The evidence surrounding Rosa's death required a longer investigation, and some statutes had expired while others had not. Lorenzo did not purchase certainty with influence. He allowed the process to remain incomplete where the proof was incomplete. Vivian cooperated in exchange for consideration on the nonviolent charges. Her firm collapsed. Celeste helped auction clients recover property records Vivian had concealed. Simone became interim chair of the foundation and refused 3 times when Lorenzo tried to make decisions through private phone calls. Marco submitted his resignation. Lorenzo rejected it. Marco submitted it again and said, "Loyalty without the freedom to leave was employment under threat." This time Lorenzo accepted. A month later, Marco returned under a new contract as an independent security director with authority to refuse operations involving civilians. Their friendship survived, but it did not return to its old shape. Hannah did not move back into the penthouse. She continued caring for Olivia from her Astoria apartment and from a smaller family residence Lorenzo rented nearby, one without a private floor of guards. Her new agreement gave her authority over school, routine medical care, counseling, and daily transportation. A separate child advocate reviewed major decisions. Lorenzo signed every page. For 12 weeks, he and Hannah spoke only about Olivia. That was not punishment. It was a boundary. He learned to arrive when he said he would. He learned the school receptionist's name. He attended counseling sessions when invited and waited outside when he was not. He packed lunches badly, improved, and stopped pretending the cook had done it. When Olivia woke from a nightmare, he did not ask security for a report. He sat in the hallway until she opened the door. The ring stayed in a bank vault during the investigation. On the first anniversary of its return, Lorenzo asked Olivia what she wanted done with it. They were at Hannah's apartment, eating tomato soup at a table too small for his shoulders. Rain tapped the window. Olivia was 9 now and taller by enough to mention whenever possible. "I don't want to wear it," she said. "People would stare." "We could give it to a museum," Lorenzo suggested. "No, then strangers would write the story." Hannah set down her spoon. "What story do you want?" Olivia thought for a long time. "I want it to come out for birthdays. And when somebody forgets." "Forgets what?" Lorenzo asked. "That home is people who tell the truth, even when it makes the house smaller." Lorenzo looked at Hannah. The child's sentence was not polished wisdom. It was built from words she had heard in counseling, arguments she had survived, and the ordinary logic of someone deciding what safety meant. "That sounds reasonable," Hannah said. Lorenzo took a small box from his coat and placed it on the table. Inside was Rosa's ring. The court had released it that morning. He did not give it to Hannah. He did not slide it across the table as a reward. He placed it between the 3 of them. Olivia opened the box and traced the chipped black wing without lifting the ring. "Grandma said broken made it braver," she whispered. "Your father remembered that," Lorenzo said. "So did you." Not for a long time. Hannah watched him. Remembering is not the same as changing. I know. He had once hated the way she answered tenderness with standards. Now he understood that standards were how she protected tenderness from becoming another kind of power. After dinner, Olivia fell asleep on the sofa with her head in Hannah's lap. Lorenzo carried the empty bowls to the sink. He washed them without being asked, sleeves rolled to his forearms, moving carefully in a kitchen where nothing responded to his name. When he finished, Hannah stood in the doorway. "You resigned from the foundation," she said. "You separated the legitimate companies from the family command structure. Marco says you are closing the businesses your mother wanted sold." "Yes. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wanted it to be true before I used it to ask you for anything." She studied him. "What were you going to ask?" "Dinner. We just had dinner. A dinner where Olivia does not throw peas at me." "She only threw one." She showed intent. Hannah smiled despite herself. Lorenzo did not move closer. "You can say no." "I know." "You can leave." "I know that too. And if you say yes, it changes nothing about your contract or Olivia." "That is the first attractive thing you have said to me." He almost smiled. "Is that a yes?" "It is a condition." "Of course it is. One dinner, public place, no drivers waiting at the curb, no background checks on the waiter, no test hidden inside the menu. I can agree to most of that." "All of it, Lorenzo." He nodded. "All of it." Hannah looked past him at the ring on the table and the child asleep beside it. The black card had been returned. The money had never been the point. What remained was harder to purchase and easier to lose. A woman's right to refuse, a child's right to remember, and a powerful man's decision to stop calling control protection. Lorenzo switched off the kitchen light and left the ring where all three of them could see it when morning came.